This morning, it's official. President Biden is throwing his hat in the ring, launching his bid for re-election earlier today.
The highly anticipated video announcement comes on the 4-year anniversary of his 2020 campaign launch. In that video, President Biden urges Americans to come together and re-elect him for another 4 years in the White House.
Let's finish this job. I know we can, because this is the United States of America. There's nothing, simply nothing we cannot do if we do it together.
But it looks like it's going to take some work in order to win over voters. The latest NBC News poll shows 70% of all Americans, including 51% of Democrats, believe he should not run for a second term. We're covering it all this morning with NBC News senior political editor Mark Murray and NBC News White House correspondent Mike Memoli. Mike, let's start with you. So we just mentioned the timing of this announcement. Exactly 4 years ago, he announced his run for the 2020 election. What are the major takeaways from this morning's announcement?
Well, Joe, when Joe Biden announced his candidacy 4 years ago today, he really put Donald Trump front and center. He warned what it would mean to re-elect the Republican incumbent for 4 more years and said that this was a battle for the soul of the nation. Well, in his announcement video today, the president really is putting Trumpism, if not Trump himself, front and center. He warns that MAGA extremists are really threatening to take away Americans' freedoms, and he argues that he needs 4 more years to finish the job. Really one of the more fascinating moments in this video is about 36 seconds in when we see Donald Trump sort of embracing Ron DeSantis. This is a view of how the Biden team views the potential re-election matchup. If it's not Trump, it'll be somebody just like Trump. Another interesting takeaway, though, Joe, is who we also see a lot of in this video. It's Vice President Kamala Harris. There have been a lot of questions about her role in the administration, what her role will be in the re-election campaign. With President Biden at 80, he would be 82, seeking, if he wins a second term, that is putting an extra spotlight on Vice President Harris. We've already seen Republicans training a lot of their attacks on her, and the Biden team making it clear they're putting her front and center as well as part of an effort to build her up for the re-election campaign.
So, Mike, bottom line, this is not an easy road ahead. Mr. Biden's presidential job approval is just 41%. That's the lowest for him since last May. With all that in mind, it's no surprise he's running. It's almost a guarantee as long as he's in the race, he's going to be the Democratic candidate. So what are his allies saying about all this?
Yeah, there are a lot of ominous poll numbers for the president, which would really indicate the peril he faces as he's running for re-election. But as I talk to Biden advisors and allies, they say a couple things. One is that the country continues to really be in a sour mood. They said the tail of the pandemic is long, and it's something that we see across the board. It's not just Biden, they point out. It's politicians all across the board who see negative numbers. They also really point out what we often hear presidents seeking re-election say, that this is going to be a choice, not a referendum. They think the president has a strong record of accomplishments to run on. He will be putting his economic vision front and center. But as the video this morning makes clear, this is going to be a decision between, for many voters, likely Donald Trump, potentially another Republican, as I said, like Trump, and the president. And they think that his optimism, his forward-looking vision for the country is really what ultimately is going to be what voters choose.
You know, let's talk about the strategy behind the scenes, Mike. NBC News reporting that President Biden's campaign will be managed by Julie Chavez Rodriguez. She is a veteran of both the Obama and Biden White Houses. She's also the granddaughter of labor leader Cesar Chavez. So what do we know about her and his new campaign team?
Yeah, they're also announcing Quentin Fulks, who ran Raphael Warnock, the Georgia senator's re-election campaign. So the early scenes of that team taking shape. What's important about a president's re-election campaign is, yes, there will be a campaign operation outside of the White House. This one we expect will be based in the president's hometown of Wilmington, Delaware. But it really does require close coordination with the team in the White House. And one of the things that Rodriguez brings is a lot of familiarity with the Biden team. She still has been serving in the White House. She's currently the director of the Office of Governmental Affairs. She was the deputy campaign manager for Biden in his 2020 race. She also did serve as Kamala Harris's state director when she was a California senator and her political director during her early stages of her presidential bid. So this is going to require close coordination with the White House team that's also calling the shots, been helping plan this rollout, and they think that she brings that portfolio to the table here.
All right, Mike Memoli kicking us off this hour. Thank you.
Let's bring in NBC News senior political editor Mark Murray now. Mark, let's start with that NBC News poll. The majority of voters don't want Trump or Biden running. So how crucial will voter outreach be in this election cycle?
Yeah, voter outreach will actually be crucial. So will having issues. But one thing to think about with this re-election launch, this is about raising the money that is going to be needed to actually build a re-election campaign, Valerie. Some billions of dollars that will need it. And so today's campaign video and campaign announcement really kind of starts that, to start laying the groundwork not only for that voter mobilization, but all the TV ads, all of the travel, all of the rallies that you'll end up seeing from the president over the next year and a half.
And Mark, at this point, we know President Biden doesn't have a serious challenger of his own, but we know there are quite a few Republicans that have already launched their campaigns, including former President Trump. So where does the 2024 Republican field currently stand?
Our new NBC News poll shows that former President Donald Trump is the clear front runner in the Republican race. In the first trial heat that our poll has taken, we're going to end up getting support from 46% of Republican primary voters. He's followed by Florida Governor Ron DeSantis at 31%. Notably, DeSantis has yet to officially announce his bid for the presidency, but he's expected to run. Beyond that, you have former Vice President Mike Pence at 6%, Nikki Haley, the former South Carolina governor, at 3%, South Carolina Governor Tim Scott at 3%, and former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson at 3%.
And when we look at the issues, abortion and gun control are the key issues for Democrats this election cycle. What are we seeing as the major issues that Republicans will be focusing on?
RNC Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel ended up releasing a statement attacking Joe Biden's re-election bid and really focusing on the issues of inflation and immigration and the border. And of course, those were the issues that really did animate Republicans in the 2022 midterms, where there was some success for Republicans, but also where there wasn't some success, particularly among Republican candidates that had been endorsed by former President Donald Trump. And so in a lot of ways, as Mike was just kind of laying out, this has familiarity to 2020. This also ends up having a lot of familiarity to the last election cycle that we just ended up seeing in the 2022 midterms.
All right, so much at stake. Mark, thank you so much.
As the race for 2024 heats up, investigators in Georgia are preparing to make a major announcement about their probe into the 2020 election, a probe that involves former President Trump. Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis sent a letter to local law enforcement agencies on Monday. It says her office will be making a decision on whether to bring charges by the end of the summer. That investigation began in 2021 after then President Trump called the Georgia Secretary of State and urged him to find enough votes for Trump to win the state. Earlier this year, the special grand jury found no evidence of widespread voter fraud in Georgia. Trump denies any wrongdoing and has repeatedly condemned the investigation.
Fox News host Tucker Carlson, CNN host Don Lemon, and NBC Universal CEO Jeff Shell are all out of a job this morning in what's been a turbulent 48 hours for three of the biggest media organizations. NBC News correspondent Stephanie Gosk takes a closer look at the changes that are sending shockwaves through the media industry.
And we'll be back on Monday. In the meantime, have the best weekend with the ones that you love, and we'll see you then.
With that, Tucker Carlson signed off on his show Friday, but he would not be coming back. Fox News Media and Tucker Carlson have agreed to part ways, the network said in a surprise statement, offering no explanation for ending the most popular show on cable news. The audience tops 3 million on an average night. Viewers drawn to Carlson's far-right opinions on issues from January 6th to immigration.
This policy is called the Great Replacement, the replacement of legacy Americans with more obedient people from faraway countries.
Carlson leaves just days after Fox Corporation settled a defamation lawsuit with Dominion Voting System for $787.5 million. Neither the network or Carlson has responded to requests for comment. The popular host is also being sued by former Fox producer Abby Grossberg. She accuses Carlson of promoting a hostile work environment, speaking to NBC News in an exclusive interview.
Women were objectified. It was a game. It was a sport. It was like being in a locker room.
In a statement, the network called the claims unmeritorious and riddled with false allegations. But Carlson's departure from Fox wasn't the only media shakeup. CNN announced longtime anchor Don Lemon would be leaving.
So good morning, everyone. Welcome in. We're so glad that you could join us here.
CEO Chris Licht thanked Lemon in a message to the company, adding Don will forever be a part of the CNN family. Lemon tweeting a different take on his sudden departure. I am stunned. I would have thought that someone in management would have had the decency to tell me directly. CNN denies the claim that management didn't offer him an opportunity for a meeting. Lemon's departure comes just 2 months after controversial comments he made on air about women, specifically presidential candidate and former UN ambassador Nikki Haley.
Nikki Haley isn't in her prime. Sorry. When a woman is considered to be in her prime in her 20s and 30s and maybe 40s.
What are you talking? Wait.
That's not according to me.
Prime for what?
Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just saying what the facts are. Google it.
Lemon later said he regretted the comments and called them inartful and irrelevant. Licht kept him on the anchor desk, telling staff he would participate in unspecified formal training, according to CNN Business. But the controversial anchor is out of a job. NBC News' parent company, NBC Universal, is also dealing with a sudden departure. CEO Jeff Shell is leaving after an investigation revealed inappropriate conduct, according to Comcast, which owns NBC Universal. Shell writing, "I had an inappropriate relationship with a woman in the company, which I deeply regret. I'm truly sorry I let colleagues down." A lawyer for CNBC anchor Hadley Gamble says the investigation into Mr. Shell arose from a complaint by my client of sexual harassment and sex discrimination. Shell and Comcast have not commented on those allegations. The media landscape is shaken, with 3 very familiar faces no longer in the picture.
And our thanks to Stephanie Gosk for that report.
For more on all this, let's bring in Brian Stelter. He is a former CNN host and the author of Hoax and the soon-to-be-released Network of Lies. Brian, it is good to have you with us. A lot to talk about. Let's start with Tucker Carlson. You just wrote a piece for Vanity Fair yesterday. It's titled "Why Tucker Carlson's Exit from Fox News Looks Like an Execution." Focuses on why Carlson was not given that chance to sign off and say goodbye on air. What do you think that means, and do you think the Dominion case was a factor in this decision?
Yeah, I think the fact that he was not on the air saying goodbye means that this was a very hostile breakup. And even though we've not heard from Carlson publicly yet, he has not commented at all. It's actually kind of incredible. This loudmouth has been suddenly silenced. And he was not allowed on the air to say goodbye because this was quite simply a firing, the television version of an execution by the Murdochs. The Murdochs, they can be loyal for years to someone. They can hold on to someone, make a lot of money with that person, and then one day just decide to change their mind. They've had enough of Carlson, and that's what happened here. I do think the Dominion case is a factor because so many embarrassing messages were revealed during the discovery process. And I'm not just talking about the ones that we in the public were able to see in legal filings. There were a lot of more messages, a lot of other messages involving Carlson that were unearthed that have still been kept private. They've been redacted in the courtroom files. But just because they were redacted, that doesn't mean Fox executives did not get to see them. Basically, here's what I'm trying to say. The management of Fox News, they were able to read Tucker Carlson's phone. They were able to read his private messages to his friends. And I can only imagine, given how much I've heard him curse at me, what he was saying privately to his friends. Imagine, for example, what he might have been saying about the Murdochs or the managers at Fox. So that does seem to have been a big factor in this decision.
As we know, Carlson really was the face of Fox News. Where does this leave the network going forward, and could they replace him with someone similar if that person exists?
Fox has what we would call a deep bench, but nobody quite like Carlson, who was able to top into the Trump-era rage and resentment from the far right. There's no figure quite like him. Now, maybe Fox can develop a talent like that, or maybe the Murdochs are going to drag Fox in a more reality-based direction. After all, there's a lot to debate in this country. There's a lot of debates in the Republican Party right now, but they need to be reality-based. And Tucker was often in a fantasy land, a conspiracy theory land, full of paranoia about January 6th and other matters. Hopefully, Fox will replace him with someone who's going to actually stick to the news. Obviously, cover it from the right because that's what Fox does, but stick to the real news.
Let's talk about CNN's Don Lemon, now your old stomping grounds. I know you know Don. What was your reaction to his dismissal? How surprised were you by this?
It did seem like Don Lemon was on thin ice for about a year, ever since new leadership was installed at CNN after a takeover of the parent company. Look, my show was canceled there last year. There were rumors at the time that Don Lemon was going to be next. Instead, he was moved to the morning, but it did not last long. And it was never quite a right fit for him there. You both know morning TV. It's a unique art. It's a very special thing. He didn't fit there. They didn't fit with him. And so this seemed to be inevitable. What's remarkable was how it happened, right? Don Lemon, just like Tucker Carlson, not given a chance to sign off live on the air. Instead, he came out with a statement and said he had been terminated basically through a phone call to his agent. So it was a very swift move. Again, another television version of an execution. And it just goes to show at the end of the day, the hosts are not in charge. The network is in charge. Sometimes people forget that in TV, but that's always the truth.
And Brian, the Daily Beast is reporting that both Carlson and Lemon have now hired the same entertainment lawyer, Brian Friedman, to handle their cases. What do you make of that move?
That's right. That's because this is probably going to take weeks or months to resolve as a financial negotiation. I do believe both men will be paid on the way out the door. Sometimes networks do that in order to make sure it goes relatively peacefully, relatively quietly. I have a feeling Fox is going to want to try to keep Tucker Carlson off the air for a while. They don't want to see him show up on a competing network tomorrow or next week. So there's going to be that kind of battle. At the end of the day, this goes to show the continued relevance of television news, whether it's cable or streaming. People want to be able to watch people they trust. Even in a TikTok age, a Twitter age, people still like to watch people. And this is a reminder that these dominant personalities, might be replaced, might come and go, but the medium remains incredibly strong.
All right, Brian, thank you for breaking it down for us. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
In Texas, 9 teens were shot over the weekend at a post-prom party. NBC News correspondent Priscilla Thompson has the latest on that investigation.
Well, police here tell us this is a very active investigation, that they are interviewing persons of interest, but they are urging anyone who was at that party to come forward with any information, any photos or videos, as they work to piece together what exactly happened at this prom night after party. Teens forced to trade prom dresses and tuxedos for hospital gowns after 9 were shot at a prom night after party.
It was supposed to be the most wonderful night of these kids' lives, greatly affected them. And it'll be something they never forget, and, unfortunately not in a positive way.
The victims, ages 15 to 19, are all expected to survive, the sheriff says. Officials say 3 remain hospitalized. Investigators say around 250 teens were at a Saturday night party in Jasper, Texas, when chaos erupted.
I seen the pop, it makes a bright light, and I seen it popped and I fell.
Jasper High School senior Madeline Collins hit the floor as gunshots rang out. Then she heard the cries of her cousin.
She was on the ground with a gunshot wound, and all I could hear was her screaming my name and saying, "Maddie, please help, help, help."
No arrests have been made, but police are interviewing persons of interest. They say cars seen at the party were involved in a shooting later that night, and the 2 incidents may be connected. This just the latest incident of bullets shattering the innocence of a high school rite of passage. A new poll finds nearly half of young Americans have felt unsafe in the past month, and 40% worry they'll be a victim of gun violence.
Oh my God.
The violence in Texas erupted exactly 1 week after a shooting at a Sweet 16 birthday party in Alabama left 4 dead and dozens injured. 6 people have now been arrested and charged with reckless murder. The birthday girl's brother, 18-year-old Philstavius Dowdell, was laid to rest. His sister and mother still grappling with their loss.
Why would they come there to Alexis Sweet 16 and run her party and give her memories around her birthday that we will never forget? Her birthday on the 14th and Phil got killed on the 15th. That's going to be very hard.
Back in Texas, some teens nearly caught in the crossfire.
I'm lucky. I'm really lucky. And the people who got shot but still is alive is very lucky.
Our thanks to Priscilla Thompson for that reporting. Investigators say that they are combing through the students' social media feeds, could announce new developments in the case as soon as today.
Time now for a look at your morning news now weather forecast.
Meteorologist Angie Lassman joins us. Hey, Angie, good morning.
Good morning, guys. We are waking up chilly in some spots. It may be spring, but it's feeling a little cooler than normal in a lot of places, stretching from the Ohio Valley into parts of the Appalachians. We are waking up to freeze alerts for more than 40 million people, and you can see why. These temperatures are sitting into the 30s from Cincinnati to Columbus, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, as we look towards Harrisburg at 40 degrees. So really chilly conditions to start the day. How about where we end the day? Still going to be below normal for a lot of places like Chicago, ending up 15 degrees below normal with a high of just 48 degrees. We look out towards Kansas City, not bad, 65 degrees. But the cooler than normal conditions stay in place for at least a little while longer through most of the work week, to be honest. We'll end up into the mid 50s for Pittsburgh tomorrow. Detroit hits the low 50s. Beckley ends up in the mid 60s. So we're finally going to start to feel pretty spring-like by the time we get into really the late week, but it doesn't last for long. Washington, D.C. ends up at 68 58 degrees by Thursday, low 60s by the time Friday rolls around, and mid 60s for the start of the weekend. We also are tracking a system that's going to work across the country over the next couple of days. And right now, we're expecting snow. We're expecting some severe weather and also the flooding concern. We have some of that snow falling in parts of the Rockies, and that system will emerge eventually here as we go through the next day or so and kind of get its act together and intensify, bringing the potential for some strong to even severe storms here as we go through the evening hour or the afternoon, really, and into the evening hours tonight. Here's the areas that we're looking for the better chance of some of these more impactful strong to severe storms. They will include things like damaging hail up to 2 inches in size or even larger than that. Notice where the cities that we're including this, from Wichita Falls basically to Austin. That's the better chance that you could see some of those stronger storms. It'll also include the potential for some damaging winds, and we can't, of course, rule out any isolated tornadoes. The heavy rain will eventually work its way a little farther to the east, but we still have that chance for some strong to severe storms as we go into tomorrow, too, and it really is centered around similar areas. It does include Dallas to Austin. Oklahoma City will get in on that as well, and the heavy rain will be problematic, too, when it comes to some flooding concerns. This is the area tomorrow that we're looking at for 2-inch plus hail here. We'll also watch for the damaging winds, and again, not to mention a couple of tornadoes. That will start to work its way to the east. The threat for severe storms kind of diminishes on Thursday, but then we'll start to see the issues when it comes to the heavy rain. Now, this area, Oklahoma, Kansas, really needs the rain. We're talking drought conditions there. We know there's a lot of agriculture, too. So I think people will be happy to see 2 to 3 inches fall over the next few days. But when it happens all at once, that means that we're looking at the potential for some flooding concerns as well, guys. So we'll watch for that. We've got the cooler than normal temperatures all across the board.
And some freeze alerts, too.
Some freeze alerts,
Happy
yeah.
spring.
Don't put your layers away.
All right. Thanks, Angie. Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.